Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on Spy Family episode 4. So I finally have some comments from YouTube and Patreon. I'm watching a little bit ahead because even though this series isn't one that's like super spoilery, it's not like Attack on Titan, Neon Genesis lockdown stuff. I still want to be surprised by what's going to happen to it, and so I am watching a little bit ahead. Plus, I really like the show, so there's that. But I do have a couple comments before we start. But yeah, this series is off to a great start. We're already on episode 4. We're already a third of the way through the season. Although it is going to time out really nicely that by the time we finish season 1, season 2 this October is going to start. So I can just streamline into that and get into the second core, which I'm really excited about. But Paw 933, we're going to talk about the VAs real quick that have been pointed out. Paw 933 points out that the shopkeeper VA is Junichi Sawabi, which is Jeha, Victor, Sakuna, Odasaku, all my favorite guys, basically voiced. So I want to hear more of him. I want to hear more of the shopkeeper because I love that VA. I love Junichi. Yours VA is the same one as Shinobu and Shinoa. Shinobu from Demon Slayer and Shinoa from Seraph of the End. You can hear it. I can hear Shinobu and Shinoa in her voice, which is funny. Wushin Suibian also noted that as well. Also, I was told that the VA for Yuri, which is, I guess, yours brother, didn't know his name. Know it now. I was told that his voice actor is the same voice actor as Akutagawa from Bungo Stray Dogs. I don't want to know anything about him yet, and I honestly didn't want to know the VA info either because usually sometimes VAs are typecast, so I'm like, I don't want to know anything about him. So if there's a character that's popped up that I don't know the voice actor for, don't tell me yet, please. But knowing it's Akutagawa, it is kind of funny that Akutagawa in Bungo Stray Dogs is the brother to a character that's an assassin, and here you have an assassin whose brother it's played by the same voice actor. So it's kind of funny with that. Also, the same voice actor for Akutagawa is also Flock from Attack on Titan, and is also a character in Vinland Saga that I'm watching. So I'm like, that's pretty cool that we have the same voice actors. But please, if a character's not appeared on screen and we've talked with them in the series, please don't tell me who they are, because I like to know voice actors, but after the fact. I want to see them first on screen, and then, because I could have been like, oh, it's so-and-so's voice actor, and now I don't have to guess because it's been spoiled. So just don't do that, please. But also I have on here NL. NL talked about how the director of this show is Furuhashi, who directed the 1999 Hunter x Hunter series. And I was like, oh, cool. So that's crazy that this guy that directed the 1999 version of Hunter x Hunter, like 30 years later or 20 years later, is doing the directing for this show. That's kind of crazy. Also, several people have said that there's like a debate on whether you say Spy Times Family or Spy Family or Spy X Family. There's still like debates on how to say it. But I do want to note that Annie Flowers, I think Annie Flowers made this point, that it was really a really good point to make, that you say Hunter x Hunter, so you'd say Spy Family, and the X is silent. And I was like, that sounds really good. So hopefully, Annie, if it wasn't you, whoever told me that comment, I forgot to write it down, but thank you. That analogy works really well. And then finally, Alexander Q noted, is the spy agency kind of sketchy? Because it's like, this whole you're saving the world and you're responsible for world peace, it's a lot to put on these agents. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if the spy agency is sketchy or not. It has a side eye, so it wouldn't surprise me. But again, I don't want any clues, hint, spoilers for the series. Even though it's a fun, fluffy series, I want to go in blind for the reactions and not be spoiled. So y'all know how I do. But in any case, I am excited to see that we got the family. We were prepped for the interview, kind of. So are we actually going to do the interview, or what's the deal? I guess we'll find out. But in any case, I hope y'all are excited, because I definitely am. So we're going to start Spy Family episode 4, and we are going to do so here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my gosh, adorable. Adorable, friggin' adorable. This was so damn cute. Yeah, it was adorable. It was really, really cute. I love just the wholesomeness of this show. I love that this show is really from Anya's perspective. It really is. Like, it is from Loid. Loid is our main character. And so he is technically our protagonist. But a lot of the OP, the ED, a lot of the story takes place from Anya's perspective because she's the child in all this. And because that's the thing. A lot of series will have like, oh, we have to pose as a couple, or it's the twist of we have to pose as a couple and pretend that we're family. But with Anya, she's an actual literal child. So even though she's telepathic and she has that going for her, and that helps like her awareness of everything that's going on and kind of helps her to go along with everything, at the end of the day, she's just a kid. And I think the ramifications of what they're doing is starting to hit Loid, because when Loid started this whole thing, he's like, oh, it's fine. I'll get a wife. She's dispensable. I've had many girlfriends before that I've just dumped as soon as I've been done and abandoned and had to have no repercussions with or consequences with it. It's fine. He's like, I'll just do the same thing with a kid. It's just a kid. And now he's saying like, no, it is just a kid. But that's the problem. It's like, are you going to abandon that kid just like they've been abandoned in the past? And she's been through like 4 different homes and families, so she knows what that's like. And Loid is getting the idea of, oh, aha, this is not going to be just any old mission, right? So at least that's what it seems like it's setting up right here from the start, right? So yeah, so they got all their personal effects. They get ready for this interview. I love the idea that they're just marking people off as they go. Like as they walk through the crowd, they're just marking off like those people don't look good enough. Those people are ugly. Those people won't work. Also, their uniforms, they look like bumblebees. They look like reverse bumblebees in their uniforms. It's kind of hilarious. It also, for some reason, reminds me of Willy Wonka. I picture like, not Augustus Gloop, but it just seems like Willy Wonka-ish. It's kind of odd. But yeah, but they're all just rounding out and like checking people off as they go. Interesting. Observing the action and scoring that is taken. Wow. But yeah, but then we have all the families and everything. The exams have already begun. Yeah, and I think they just sort people out based on how they score, because they told them to go to Hall 1, and I think the ones that didn't score, what'd they say? I want to see what A12 was. A12 failed. So if you failed, you went to Hall 2, and if you passed, you went to Hall 1. Okay. So this headmaster, I don't know who voice acts for him. Let me find out real quick. I want to do the headmaster VA for Spy times Family. Let me see what his it is. Let me see what here. I want to see Henry Henderson. I just want to know who voices him. His voice actor is Kazuhiro Yamaji. Who does he play? I know, what has he done? I know that voice. It's like, okay, he as Meow's father in Space Jam. He's Senor Pink in One Piece. Okay, I know that one. What else has he been in that I would know? He's also been... Oh, he's Kenny! He's Kenny Ackerman! Oh my god! Ah! Are you joking? He's Kenny? Okay. If you've not watched Attack on Titan, Kenny Ackerman is the furthest thing from this headmaster. Elegant! I knew that voice from somewhere, but I was like, where have I heard it? It's Kenny Ackerman. That's so freaking hilarious. Amazing. Okay. But yeah, but he is a hoot. He reminds me kind of the, it's been a long time since I even watched anything remotely related to Hunter x Hunter, but he reminds me of like the main guy, the old man in Hunter x Hunter that's like the leader of the organization. He has that vibe about him. Maybe it's the mustache, like the Master Roshi mustache. He has that vibe. He reminds me of the director, the head guy at Hunter x Hunter of the organization. He reminds me of him. But he's all about elegance and posh refinement. And I love that all the other families go past the statue and he's like, they're trudging upon the blessed school ground. Elegance creates tradition. It's what truly makes this world a paradise. It's like, oh my god, are you joking? He's like, any family lacking elegance will be failed immediately. But then he notices that they pay their respect in front of they look respectable and they pay their respect in front of the statue. Yeah. It's great. And he says he looks at them, paying respects to our founder. Oh my gosh. He's like, I'm a man of 1,000 faces. So becoming a person that my child, he's like, becoming one of these elite upper crust, goons is going to be nothing. And she's like, I don't know who this guy is, but Loid said to stand here, so sure. I'll be fine as long as I do what Loid is doing. I like that Yor has utmost trust in Loid. Like, she has faith that Loid has a plan and he knows what to do. I like that Yor's like, no, I got this. We'll just follow the lead. And then I love that Anya's like, Baldy. Anya's the best. Anya is my favorite and I love her. He's like, it's so elegant. And so Anya barely passed the test with a 31. Like, she barely made it through, right? And her answers are so sad. Like, she can barely spell her name. Like, what awful penmanship. He's like, something's wrong. How could they be so elegant, but yet their daughter have such lacking skills? And it's like, He's like, we must investigate. Just ascertain where they have true elegance or not. So yeah, they send the people like G114 passed, they go to Hall 1, and then they send the ones that failed to Hall 2. Okay, fair enough. And they're wasting no time with screening. He's like, head to Hall 1. And they automatically know who's going where. The memory on these guys. He's like, well, don't let your guard down. So I like that. Here's the thing about this academy. Someone pointed out in the discussion, they were like, I guess Twitter or whatever was talking about this episode and was saying how you couldn't enter the exam process, the application process or the interview unless there were two parents. And so they were like, what about single parents? And I'm like, well, this show is saying that the upper crust elite, like, you're not a traditional family. So if there's not two parents, you don't apply. So it's very exclusionary. This is not supposed to be like the happy go fun academy that you apply to. No, this is like upper crust elite snobby. Like, we want perfection and we want what our societal standards dictate as normal. And the Forger family applies in no shape, way, or form. They just look the part, right? But what's kind of disturbing about all this is that there's a kid that's stuck in the gutter. I like he says, I've accidentally fallen into the gutter. I'm like, how did you accidentally fall in? The gutter, like, is pulled apart. How did you fall in on accident? I don't understand. But that's maybe what reminds me of Augustus Gloop, is he's stuck there like Augustus Gloop is stuck in the chocolate in Willy Wonka. But it's disturbing that the idea here is that we are not going to help him. He's a poor kid stuck in a gutter, but we could get our clothes dirty. We're not going to help him. I'm like, that's terrible. That's awful. Like, you don't want to do that. He's like, they're blatantly testing us. And everybody else walks past him, but he's setting the example for Anya. And he's like, all right, we must deal with this accordingly. And so he gets his clothes dirty and everything. And she's like, Papa, Mama, there's someone who needs our help. Please, let us save them. And then he gets his clothes dirty. And at first the headmaster's like, parry the thought, they'll smell like country folk. And then he's like, throw them out immediately. But then they change their clothes. And this poor kid was actually like, people are going to fail because of me. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, we anticipated this. So he prepared a change of clothes just in case. I love Anya's like, yes. And he's like, I love the headmaster. It's just like the triple take. He's like, oh, how would they know? And she's like, oh, the gray suit actually seems better. And he's like, oh, thanks. It's great. We would have been mistaken for commoners from the countryside. Thank you for the opportunity to change, lad. And the kid's like, oh my God, these people are scary. And they thanked the boy. So smart and elegant. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love these people. I love the people that are like, headmaster. Like, they're like, oh, he's on a roll again. Here we go. We're supposed to be testing the child, not the parents. He's like, silence. They must learn from their parents' example, which is true. As a teacher, I can attest that a lot of times an issue with the kid goes back to the parent. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. It's hard to blame the kid if their parent is the problem. It's like, okay. So then what gets me is the farm animals escaping. The animals have escaped the farmhouse. My family, I grew up on a farm. My family raises farm animals. There are not eagles that just get released. For some reason, that just cracked me up. I was like, of all things, there's goats, there's sheep, there's pigs, there's horses, there are ostriches. The ostriches also have like dinosaur legs. If you look at the animation, I'm like, did anyone ever see an ostrich before? Before animating it? I'm not kidding. The ostrich leg, if you pause it, it looks like a raptor leg. Ostrich. I'm like, have y'all ever seen an ostrich? So before you animated it, but I just love that I can understand ostriches because I have seen a farm where they are there. But the eagles, just random eagles, it's the funniest damn thing. It's so great. I love it. And then I love that they're like, it's just an accident. It was not planned. It was just an accident. And they managed to save it. And I love that Loid can't let the little kid, like some kid falls down like Lion King style. It's about to be like Mufasa and get trampled by the wildebeest. And instead Loid saves them. And I love that Yor has the opportunity to do something on her part. And she's like, okay. And she manages to like use her like pressure point skills to make the cow stop. Like that's so freaking good. I love it. And even Loid's like, how did you? She's like, I learned it in yoga. I love it. Also, why does one of the cows look like Gene Simmons? Its face spot looks like Gene Simmons off the band Kiss. Why? It's just so funny. And Loid thinks about using his gun. He's like, I can't use my gun. And then Yor's like, I got this. I love that, again, Loid and Yor are perfect yin and yang. They can complete each other. Whatever he can't do, she steps in to get it done. I'm like, hell yeah. But she gets all serious. And I love that he got the horn caught on his jacket and it ripped it. And she does like the awesome move and then spins around and like whips around and gets her tights all ripped. Oh my God, it's so good. I want to get a picture of that. That just is so perfect. And Loid's like, she's like, yes, I learned it in yoga class. What else did you expect? Oh, she's so dead serious. Ah! And it falls down and she's like, oh yeah. And she just instantly goes from like, and Loid and Anya have the same expression. They really do they look like father-daughter there. They have the exact same expression, like, excuse me? She's like, I don't know about that. I figured they might work on cows too. And all the cows are like, nope. All the other farm animals are like, none of that. And then Anya, I love that so apparently Anya's ability works on animals too. He's like, oh, Anya, that's dangerous. But she can listen. Apparently her powers work on animals as well. I was like, okay, cool. I like that little caveat there. And she says Ms. Cow, and I was like, oh. She's like, please don't be scared. Oh, that's so good. So good. And Loid and them don't know what else to do, but she calms the cow down. Mm-hmm. And I know there's going to be some people in the comments that comment that it has a nose ring and horns. You can still put a nose ring in cows, and cows can have horns. So I was like, that's very good. She's like, they're going to go home now. And I like that Anya, whatever she says in here, it works. She almost gives herself away. She almost calls him a spy. And I was like, oh no! And she gives herself away. Like if Loid was really thinking about it, he'd be like, why did she say it that way? But he's not thinking about it. So it just goes past him. But I'm like, oh girl, you almost gave yourself away a few times in this. And he's just like, I love the headmaster just has like an orgasmic experience with elegance. I still can't believe it's Kenny's voice actor. That's the best thing in the world to me. I freaking love it. He's one of the headmasters in charge of the exam. So, yep, then they go. And then they just bring the top out. He's like, these people are just scary. Yes, they are. They are just that intense. So then they go into this interview, and the Swan guy's a total douche lord. I don't like him at all. He's kind of the worst. And I like that Loid, he's like, I'm so nervous. He's like, I've stopped a missile a second before it went off, and this is the most nervous I've ever been. And Anya's like, I gotta do good for Papa. And so we have our housemasters. The housemaster of Dorm 5 is Malcolm Hall, who is an English teacher. He's mild-mannered, sincere, and conservative. Seems like a stereotypical English teacher. 59 years old. So yeah, these headmasters are much older. The students are fond of him. As long as we respond with sincere, logical answers, we'll score highly with him. It's like, okay, yeah. And then they ask how they met. It's really cute. And then the more we spoke, the more I felt she was a kindred spirit. Yeah, that's the thing. She is. Yor is perfect for Loid. She is a kindred spirit, and she's perfect for him. It's like, you two are so good together. You just don't even realize it. She cares dearly about the family. And you can tell Yor's like, well, okay, thanks. She'd get along with my daughter. And he's like, what about you, madame? And she's like, okay, just like we practiced. She's like, Loid is a wonderful person who cares for his daughter. So then we have Murdoch Swan, who has the most antagonistic name, who's 47. Of course he's an economics teacher. I'm sorry to all economics teachers, but of course he is. He's arrogant, greedy, and callous. And he recently got divorced, and he lost custodial rights of his daughter. So of course this family would strike a nerve with him. He's a legacy hire, the only son of a former housemaster. He's just there by nepotism. Yep, and he has lost custody of his daughter, so he's gonna have a bone to pick. Which they knew about it, but it's still like he was below the belt in some of these questions. I was like, oof, we need to avoid provoking him. And so they suck up so hard on this. They suck up so hard to the instructors. And Henry Henderson is the housemaster of Dorm 3, the history teacher, and his personality is elegant. I love that they suck up so hard to them, and it's all the right answers for that interview. Gotta do it. He's like, they saw potential. How would you describe your daughter? And I like that they're pretty honest about this. They're like her strengths and weaknesses. And she's like, what's my weakness? And they're like, she's an extremely curious child. So her habit of sticking her nose where it doesn't belong could be seen as a weakness, but she's a very intelligent child. And she's like, he's like, intelligent, her? She's like, oh. Sometimes it's like she sees right through me, and she's like, oh shit, no, I don't want to be that obvious. I love it. Yikes. Which keeps me on my feet. And she's like, oh. Her only shortcoming is she's a picky eater. And so they describe her parenting style, and she's like, okay, just like we practiced, because she's not a parent. She's like, I'm not her biological mom, but I would spoil her, and I'm going to be more strict with her. And it's like, okay. I'm actually surprised that Loid said he did most of the cooking. I'm surprised he said that, because as soon as she said that she didn't cook as much, I knew they were going to latch onto it, because it's like these old conservative guys are like, a woman's place is in the kitchen. Why aren't you making the meals? And it's like, ugh. And so I'm actually glad that Loid stuck up for her. And he's like, well, she helps me. And he was actually really kind to her. He's like, if I'm busy, she's kind enough to cook for me. And he's like, not that that's even happened once. Like, basically admitting that he's cooked every time. And then this guy's like, what kind of wife can't cook for her husband? Like, the Swan guy's so mean. He's like, you need to be stricter with yourself before you worry about that child. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then Loid's like, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. Like, she's extremely tidy and excels at keeping our house spotless. And this guy's like, and she's like, she's an excellent mother to my daughter. And he's like, those are things women are expected to do. I'm like slowly like lifting up as the episode goes on. I'm like, oh really? The Murdoch guy is just the worst. Like, nope. And she's like, oh, it's all right, Loid. And he's like, calm down. Yeah, so he's like, he starts to let his emotions get the better of him, because he cares about these people. He's like, why are you getting irritated, Twilight? She's not even your real wife. But he likes her, right? There's chemistry there. It's like, oh. And so he's like, a lovey-dovey hot couple. You make me sick. Yeah, they are a lovey-dovey hot couple. I'll keep jabbing until you slip up. And Anya's like, oh my God. I'll make sure these two fail. There's clearly no justice in this world. And he's like, he doesn't like... I love that Anya gets out of that entire conversation. She's like, he doesn't like Papa and Mama. It's like, oh. And then, of course, I like that the one guy shifts the conversation. He's like, let's talk to the little lady instead. And even though she fumbles in some of the answers, she gets it right for the most part. And so she's like, she's curious about the headmaster. And he's like, the desire to learn from her predecessors at an early age. I'm like, Loid spins it so well throughout this. He spins it perfectly. And so it's quite elegant. I'm like, oh, just suck up. Do you know the name of the principal, young lady? And she kind of gets it right. And she's like, and I love that she demonstrates her resolve, like getting through dancing with death over and over to get brave. And Loid's like, just roll with it. Just roll with it. That was the training montage the protagonist of her spy cartoon did yesterday. He's like, just roll with it. Go with it. Go on. And he's like, such incredible resolve. Like, the headmaster's sold. Like, he sold on her instantly. And then the English teacher's like, you don't have to do that much, little lady. But Murdoch is the worst. And they're like, what does your father do for a living? And she's like, oh, he's a specialist in mental health, a good one. And Loid's like she almost slipped up and said he was a spy. And like, oh, are you a little stuffed up? How do you feel about your new mother? And she says she's very nice, but she's scary sometimes. And then I like that they ask what score she'd give her parents. And then Anya says, I'd give them a perfect 100 points. They're so much fun and I love them both very much. I want to be with them forever. It's like, oh, she's so little and cute. And it's like, yes, that's because she loves them so much. It's like, oh, it's so cute. I love Loid and Anya and Loid are both like, and they're like, oh, and he's like, no one needs this rubbish. And then this guy, like the one question below the belt, would you score your old mother or new mother higher? Like, that's so cruel. And they're like, come on now. And Loid's like, may I respectfully request a different question? And he says, no. He says, if you do not answer, you'll lose points. And Loid's like, that is below the belt. And he's like, I don't know how she ended up in that orphanage. But and when he says her actual parents are already probably, like, she doesn't know that. She doesn't know. She just knows she's in the orphanage. So she doesn't know about her real parents. So for him to suggest that they're dead, that's like enough to make any little kid cry. Oh, honey, that's so below the belt. I'm like, that, for her to think that. She's like, Mama. And then I like that Yor gets up and she's like going over to help her. And then this guy, this douche lord, he's like, you do prefer your older mother. It's like, that's awful. Like, that's cruel. Yeah, he's like, we have to remain calm. But it doesn't really work. He's like, we have plenty of students here who live away from their parents in our dorms. If she's going to cry over every trifling little thing, she'll never survive at our establishment. And Loid's like, so what if he's being slanderous? We're nothing more than a pretend family. She's like, you call this trifling? She's like, I will end you. It's like, this is nothing. He's like, now, Miss Second Wife. Don't set me because she loves her real mother more. Oh! And Loid's like, that is enough. He's like, restrain yourself, Twilight. And he manages to hit the table instead with the mosquito. With the blood from it. Oh my god. It's like, I do beg your pardon. There was a mosquito! Oh my god. And yeah, and then they just leave. He's like, and they just leave. And I love how Loid ended it. He was like, if this is how you're going to treat people, then this is not the educational institution we thought it was. So bye. I'm like, we've chosen the wrong school. And that got the other headmaster's attention. Because he's like, oh. He's like, oh, I see. Interesting. He's like, he is right. He's like, we're supposed to be this amazing elitist institution and we're throwing people out for silly reasons. And I love that Swan tries to like throw his dad's name in there to like keep him. And then I love that the headmaster, that old Henry, is just like, nope, and just slugs him. He's like, most elegant. I was like, the headmaster is kind of like, I feel like he's going to be an antagonistic character, but I do like the headmaster Henry that he slugs him. I'm like, as you should have. I'm like, if this is the last we see of Murdoch Swan, it will be too soon. I don't like Swan at all. I'm glad he got punched, and I'm glad that hopefully he's out of this series. That'd be great. But meanwhile, the family thinks that they haven't passed. Loid thinks that they haven't passed, it's over. And he's like, we definitely failed. And Yor's like, I'll go make some tea. And then Anya's like, I'm sorry, I didn't try harder. And he's like, I failed yet again as a spy. I let unnecessary feelings get in the way of the mission. But those feelings were because you cared about her. And it's like, that's better than the mission. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't do better. I'm like, oh, Anya. And he's like, oh. He's like, it's all right. You have no reason to apologize. I do like that picture of the seats that are above their thing. It doesn't really match anything else, but it's really cool. I like that picture. He's like, you don't want to go to school like that, do you? And then she says, but but I want to go to school. And he's like, oh, and she's like, if this mission fails, I have to go. Oh, so she didn't say out loud if the mission fails. She was thinking that. You just couldn't see her mouth move because she was listening, but the words were italicized. Ah, that makes sense. Okay. We won't be together anymore. And she's like, if she fails, of course, life here together will be. But that doesn't matter. I've just got to think about how it'll affect my work. But to be honest, hell freeze over before you pass. And she's like, I'm sure everything will be all right. Don't say that to the child. And she's like, the grandpa with the glasses and the grandpa with the half glasses, they were really nice. They'll probably pass. She's like, oh, I'm sure they'll vouch for us. Let's believe in them. I like that yours like, let's believe in them. She's a child, Loid. Let's give her some faith. You know, I like that yours like she's picked up on the mom deal. Like, let's help her. And then Loid does little cufflinks. He's like, spies don't believe in anyone other than themselves. They always expect the worst case scenarios and prepare for them. And then we say, I want to be with them forever. But maybe just a little bit. Let's leave the result to fate and try to recover from how exhausting the exam was. Oh, yeah, he's like, all right, just now for a little bit to our family's bright future. Oh, I love that it's like, okay. Like, Loid is like, just for now, we'll let it go. I'll maybe think that there's a chance that we'll pass. Oh, Anya steals my heart, and I hate Murdoch. I'm glad he got punched. I hope that's the last we ever see of him. But I have a feeling they're going to pass. But it's curious. We have to wait till the next episode to find out what the Housemaster is going to do, what Henry's going to do to get them, to make sure that they'll pass this one round. I don't know. Maybe like an interview part 2 or like a trial or something. I have a feeling that the headmaster will have something else up his sleeve to test them with, but this was so sweet. So sweet. So freaking sweet. I loved it. So yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm not sure how this is going to go next episode, but this episode was really precious. And Anya and Loid and Yor are just the best. They just need to stay together forever, as Anya said. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. God, this episode was adorable, but I'm really excited for episode 5 now. So we shall see. But in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Spy Family.